It means that the reality that we experience varies from person to person. Ooh, I have something real juicy for us here, okay? My name is Osmali. I have a bachelor's degree in neuroscience, with which I am not using to go to med school or grad school or anything like that at this moment. I am actually using it for the internet. Bad decision? I don't know. Today I've decided that I want to do a conversational style video because I was so not in the mood to like memorize my lines and then say them to the camera, like perform them to you. I'm not a circus monkey, thank you very much. Instead, I have my notes out right over here. I also have my laptop out over here so that I could just like be able to look at this stuff. I'm gonna do my nails and we're just gonna talk like we're friends. Aren't we? I think we'd be better friends if you subscribe. Sorry, I just had to slip that in there. This video will talk about how our brain constructs our own reality and how we are all unreliable narrators. But since I kind of wanted to keep this a little bit more chill than I usually do, I was hoping that we could talk about my mind's path from the very beginning of the construction of this video. So if you want the scenic route, then come along with me. If not, if you just want to get straight into the meat of things, then go ahead. I have some timestamps that are linked down in the description. No judgment. I totally get it. I'm gonna be painting my nails this color. Ooh, focus. Ooh, ooh. Get to do the little influencer thing. And I'm gonna put these little stickers on top. So yes, let's dive in. So starting from like the absolutely very beginning, I wanted to make a video that combined like all of my different niches. I've been feeling very intimidated by the fact that all of the people who are saying that you want to start a new YouTube channel, then you have to niche down. No, I don't. And I won't. I don't care. I wanted to combine my interest for reading as well as neuroscience. Those are two things that I've been having like a hard time trying to figure out how to combine. So I was thinking I could make a video about maybe why we enjoy reading, but nothing exactly seemed very interesting to me. But then one thing jumped out at me. Unreliable narrators. Yes, it made so much sense to me because in that moment I was like, okay, I can make a whole video about why we like unreliable narrators because like honestly they'll be lying straight to our faces, but that's something that we enjoy. The question was, why do we enjoy being lied to in the context of an unreliable narrator story? God, I'm getting it all over like the sides. Oh. Grr. I pulled out my computer and I got out Google Scholar and I looked up unreliable narrator brain neuroscience, trying to get all of the keywords in there, and that research led me down to a path of duds. It was fine, I guess. It didn't bring up anything interesting about the unreliable narrator itself. I thought that the most interesting thing about the unreliable narrator was like the difference between the objective truth and the subjective truth of the narrator, and I thought, you know, like the thrill of reading that kind of story that has an unreliable narrator or watching a movie that has an unreliable narrator is trying to figure out what the actual truth is. I thought that that was something that could be interesting. So I kind of honed in on that, trying to research exactly the uncertainty that we feel in figuring out like which truth is the real truth. I thought that that was really interesting. I thought I could tie it into human curiosity and how that has been like evolutionarily advantageous. And I thought that this video was gonna be the one. Like I found all the different brain structures and stuff like that. Apparently the mediodorsal thalamus is very involved in like uncertainty. I don't know exactly what wait, let me finish painting this nail and then I'll look at my notes on my computer. Oh, she's messy. It's okay. The mediodorsal thalamus regulates sensory and mapping uncertainties and flexible decision making. So I feel like in that case, the decision would just be figuring out what was the objective truth versus the subjective truth. And then I found some other sources saying that that part of the thalamus, the mediodorsal thalamus, was correlated with the ventral pallidum. And the ventral pallidum gets a lot of dopamine from the ventral tegmental area. The ventral tegmental area, or the VTA, is basically just like the factory for dopamine, and the VTA sends a lot of dopamine to the ventral pallidum. The ventral pallidum plays a major role in like reward processing, so the fact that the ventral pallidum was communicating a lot with the mediodorsal thalamus, I thought that that had a lot of like reward value in figuring out what the actual truth is. Basically, the ventral pallidum is telling the mediodorsal thalamus, if we find the truth out, then we're gonna get a big hit of dopamine. It is at this point in the video making process that I usually confer with my boyfriend my ideas and stuff like that. He kind of brought up kind of excitedly, oh, that reminds me of like some of the other books that I've read. And he reads a lot more fantasy than I do. I tend to stick to like realistic fiction. He was telling me about how like chapters can have multiple different perspectives from different characters, and oftentimes there will be a moment where one character in his respective perspective chapter will be like in a pinch. There's a lot of tension, like something's about to happen, but right when you're supposed to figure out how it all resolves itself, the book will cut to like another chapter with another character's perspective. And he's like, that kind of makes you want to keep reading. The fact that like the truth is being withheld from you. And I'm like, oh. In that moment, I felt exasperated. I felt a little bit sad because I was like, okay, there's like nothing unique about this unreliable narrator thing. Because like, yeah, all books, all entertaining books at least, they're going to withhold the truth from you in some kind of manner. Maybe they're withholding the truth from a character, maybe they're withholding the truth from you, but that's what makes you want to keep reading. That's what makes you want to keep turning the page. So I felt a little bit hopeless in that moment. I thought I found something that was like unique to the unreliable narrator thing, but then I didn't. Aww. I'm sitting there with my laptop open, all of these scraps just sitting in my little Notion tab. I could put them together in the original way that I thought that I would, but I feel like that would just be taking it from a liquid puddle into kind of more of like a block of jello. Like it's still weak and it wobbles a little bit. It's not strong. Oh, but then one of these scraps really caught my eye. Boom. I was collecting like a list of books and movies that all had unreliable narrators so that I could, you know, reference them in my rudimentary video that ended up not working out. But then I started staring at these ones for just like a little bit too long, and I started thinking, specifically these two books in particular that I just set aside, Brat and My Year of Rest and Relaxation. You know what I've realized? These two are very highly different in terms of unreliable narrators. Like, they are unreliable, I guess you could say, but their level of unreliability varies so much. There's so much range. Even though I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation twice, I was like, no, I have to Google if this is really an unreliable narrator, because like, I feel like in the cultural zeitgeist, not to sound like a Substacker or anything like that, oh, that would be terrible. You know, we accept My Year of Rest and Relaxation as an unreliable narrator book. But then when I compare it to the other unreliable narrator stories that I had in there, especially Brat, I'm like, okay, that doesn't really make sense. I didn't really think that they fit together, but then I realized that it is all a spectrum. It is all a spectrum. Oh my god, I'm really messing these up. Look at this. Yeesh! It's like a bloody mess. Why is My Year of Rest and Relaxation considered unreliable? I wrote notes for this. Okay, so yes, my point one is that she's a bitch. My point number two is that she lies to her friends and her therapist and her ex-boyfriend. So that's fair. That makes it difficult to trust her, right? Because we must also assume that she's— I messed it up a little bit, but it's okay, it was just the first coat. But that makes us think that she's lying to us as well, like, obviously. That's like a logical assumption to make at this point. And there's also the other fact that she's taking like a million different types of sleeping pills, because the whole point of the book is that she wants to sleep for an entire year. So she's got this therapist like prescribing her all this stuff. Therapist? Psychiatrist? I remember specifically in the book it said that one of them was not to be recommended taken with alcohol because it could have some kind of hallucinatory effects, right? And imagine what she did. She mixed it with alcohol, so— The thing is, nothing that happened in the book was like so far out to where it could not be considered a part of our fabric of reality. Like maybe the thing that she hallucinated was that like her ex-boyfriend came over. But then when comparing it to Brat, which I highly recommend if you haven't read that, by the way, I don't see a lot of people talking about it, but I love it so much. It's a really good book. In Brat, oh my god, like that guy's off his rocker. Certified off his rocker, needs to be sent to a mental asylum. Like, I'm sure of it. But it's also a depiction of grief and everything like that. Like, I get it. Like, it's supposed to be symbolic. But, like, if the character were a real person in real life, he would be off his rocker. That's towing on the line of, like, psychological thriller, whereas My Year of Rest and Relaxation is just, like, slightly unreliable. The point of the book is not that she's unreliable. You know what I'm saying? It's a different point. But that leads me to the spectrum that I've created. I have 4 books here that I've included on the spectrum that kind of range from like most— I don't even know how to put this. They range from like the most non-real events that could happen to the most real events that could happen. And I feel like I've really done a good job here, so I hope you appreciate it. Here is my graph, unreliable narrator by their proximity to reality. I hope I have it up on the screen because I don't want to explain all of it without you not being able to see. So on the very far left, I have Brat. Brat is absolutely insane. There are things happening in that book that should not happen in any kind of world according to our physics or our anatomical blah. It doesn't make sense, you know? It just does not make sense, and it would not happen in this reality. And then the next one I have maybe a little bit controversial, but a little bit closer to the reality. This is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Ken Kesey. Anybody read that? Oh my god, I didn't paint this one. I read it for an English class. Oh my god. In high school, absolutely loved it. It was so much more iconic than I thought it was gonna be. And then we watched the movie with Jack Nicholson. That's what I'm talking about. The main character in that book, one of the patients in a mental asylum. So obviously we can't really trust his viewpoint. I believe he's schizophrenic. I can't remember exactly. But there are less unbelievable things that happen in Cuckoo's Nest as opposed to Brat, I would say. Like the ratio of crazy things to pages is higher for Brat. Next up, leading towards the more reality, I have My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And I feel like we can all agree with this. Because yes, there are probably some things that happened in that book that are like, okay, did that really happen? But like, nothing that happens in that book is unbelievable. I could believe that it happened. Oh my god, I've done it. I've really done it now. I got a little fuzzy on this finger that I was trying to fix, but then in an attempt to get the tweezers to get the fuzzy off, I ruined my nail. I've ruined it. Awfully frustrating experience for me, but that's okay. And then that brings me to the final one that I heard a lot of people say is an unreliable narrator, which I might disagree. This is Big Swiss. Have any of you guys read Big Swiss? I don't care, because I'm gonna talk about it anyway, actually, but you should read it. Oh, it's a good book. Nothing was obviously wrong with the woman, except for maybe like a little bit of neurosis. She's not hallucinating things, you know what I'm saying? She lies, but she seems self-aware enough to recount the truest experience of her story. I feel like if you read the book, you would agree with me there. Like, I don't think she lies much to us at all. She is just like telling her subjective truth based on the experiences that she has experienced. And yet we call her an unreliable narrator. It's in her emotions, it's in her past experience that inform her about the world that she is seeing around her. And she makes assumptions, yes, but don't we all? So how are we to say that that is wrong? We can't. Everything that our brains has experienced and sensed and seen, that informs our perception of reality, that informs our truth. And I'm gonna give you a very simple example here that we all can recall unless you like just popped out of the womb. Sorry to my Gen Alphas. The dress. Is it blue and black or is it white and gold? It literally divided the entire world and became an international sensation because two different groups of people saw two different things of the exact same image. In that moment, we realized that there was not one objective truth, but rather two subjective truths, two perceptual truths. And I remember something that my middle school teacher told us, like one day in class, she was just telling a story about her and her sister. They were having an argument. It was getting heated. It was getting political. I don't really know if it was about politics or anything like that. I think one of the girls said to the other, she was like, "That's not true." And then the other responded, "Well, it's my truth." And oh my god, that blew my mind. In that moment, that literally blew my mind. And then my middle school teacher goes on to say, I had one truth, my sister had another truth. And I'm like, what do you mean? There are two different truths. It just didn't make sense to me. You can have one truth, another person can have another truth that somehow conflict with each other, but are both true. How? But when we think about the dress, I mean, it makes sense in that case, right? It means that the reality that we experience varies from person to person. There was this great article that I found while trying to research this video and have a little bit more like thoughts backed up by evidence instead of just yapping on about like absolutely nothing. It was from the Scientific American and they brought up how like colors are virtually non-existent. They're literally just like electromagnetic waves. Are they? Wait, are they? Oh my god, stop. What is this? Are colors? Yes, they are. Sorry, I feel like I should have known that. Colors do not exist. They're literally just electromagnetic waves that we perceive them to be that way. Dogs can't see colors. Colorblind people can't see color. Will we say that they are unreliable narrators? It depends on your perception. Are you a glass half full or glass half empty type person? You know what I'm saying? Dude, I'm really bad with my other like my right hand is the dominant one, and whenever I try to do anything with my left hand, it just looks disastrous. It is disastrous. Referring to my notes here, there was this German physicist and psychologist in the late 19th century. His name was Hermann von Helmholtz. He proposed that perception is this. It's this unconscious inference, which over the decades has been researched further and then refined, I guess you could say, into predictive coding. This part is really interesting to me, and I have more notes on this on my laptop. Predictive coding is the theory of brain function, suggesting that the brain is constantly generating and updating a mental model of the environment. Okay, so for example, if you see a strange figure in your corner of the room in the middle of the night or something like that, your brain is probably telling you at first, oh my gosh, that's a human. You should be freaking out a little bit. Like, that's scary, you have an intruder in your house. But then you go and turn on the light in your room and you realize, no, it's not a person. It was actually just like a hat and a coat hanging on your coat hanger. And it looked like in the dark, it formed the resemblance of a human being, but it was not a human being. When that happens, your brain forms a prediction error. That's when like the predicted signals in your brain versus the actual sensory signals from your environment are contradicting each other. So your brain makes a prediction error and it kind of updates itself to include the new memory that you just gained, literally like AI. It's so funny to me because we're actually so similar to AI. Maybe it's just because we're making it in our image, because it's all we can understand. Not to get off topic. So our brain updates itself in order to make a more proper prediction of the reality that we're seeing.
The way that it does this, and I've constructed this beautiful little graph that we're seeing, is that if the outcome is better than the prediction expected, then we get more dopamine firing in our brain to help us learn that. If it's the same, then we get the same amount of dopamine firing. It doesn't change. And if it's worse, we get less dopamine.
And the SciAm article says that, I don't know if I can say that. I feel like I should like consult the nerds for it. Can I call Scientific American SciAm? Or is that just me like using the hard R or something like that? So I don't even know where that came from. The article said about predictive coding, by striving to minimize sensory prediction errors everywhere and all the time, the brain implements approximate Bayesian inference, and the resulting Bayesian best guess is what we perceive. And Bayesian is just one of those academic terms that help define everything, so don't worry about that. But our best guess is what we perceive. That's what we're taking away from this, okay? Our best guess is what we perceive. It's an inference, it's a guess based off the information that we have. Now, literally imagine, maybe we were so afraid of the figure in a corner of our room or something like that, that we literally just ran out of our room, never to return. We assumed that that was an intruder, a human being inside of our apartment. That would become our reality. We would never learn that it was actually just a coat hanger. We would never make that predictive error. That would become a part of our reality. That would become a memory for us. Now, if we went back to our room with a police officer, and were able to go inside the room and then realize that it was literally just a coat and a hat on a rack or something like that, then our brain would be able to make that predictive error, our memory would be updated, and we would know in the future that the thing in our corner is probably not a human. It's probably just something making the shape of a human. And then that would become our reality. And that really reminds me of Big Swiss, which is on the more reality side spectrum of unreliable narrators, if you can remember. There was one part in the book where she assumed, like she was seeing an event, some kind of attack take place in an alleyway or something like that, and she knew one of the people that was getting attacked, but she didn't know who the attacker was, or something along the lines of that. I can't exactly remember what happened. But she assumed who the attacker was, based off of like kind of the other information that she knew about the person that was being attacked. She carried that information with her and she just thought that that was what happened. I think it ended up being wrong. Honestly, I can't really remember plots that well. Please don't come after me for it, but I don't think there are many Big Swiss stands out there. Even though there should be. There should be. But can we really fault her for that? Like, can we fault her for assuming that that was the attacker? Would we call her an unreliable narrator for that? It's interesting that people call her an unreliable narrator for that because it really wasn't her fault there. She was just using her best guess to assume who that person was. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she jumped to conclusions a little bit too fast, but it made all the sense to me in that moment. It made sense to me. I don't know. And then a kind of tangential point, I have this picture up on my computer, and I'm sure you've seen it before, but I want to make you do it again. I'm going to show you a picture, and you tell me what it is, okay? So did you see a duck? Or did you see a rabbit or something like that? See, that is very interesting, honestly, because they can look like both. I feel like sometimes when you see these illusions, they'll come with like a little explanation of like why you saw what you saw. It's like, oh, if you saw the duck, then you're more ambitious. And then when you see the rabbit, maybe you're more laid back. A little bit of a rudimentary and dramatic example, but you get what I'm saying, right? We know that our personality, which comes from our experience, informs our perception of things. That's just another way to prove that. Thanks for chilling with me while I do my nails. This was very nice for me, actually.
Checkpoint. Before I start absolutely yammering about stuff that may pertain more to me than it does the general public, I just want to point you to more resources in the description if you're interested in learning about more, because this is, Oh, I'm yammering.
But sometimes, unfortunately, there really just are conflicting views of reality sometimes. Like with the dress, some people saw blue and black and some people saw white and gold. There was a right answer, I guess, because the dress was blue and black in real life, but with that whole filter applied over it, you couldn't tell. With just that stimulus all by itself, you wouldn't know what's true and what's false because two different people were seeing two completely different things. I feel like more commonly with conflicting views of reality, like they've gotta happen with emotions. Emotions are such a subjective experience. The reason you could be feeling an emotion could be completely different from somebody else who's feeling the same emotion. Or conversely, there could be two people who are experiencing like the exact same event, but they walk out from it with like completely two different emotions. There could be two different people riding a roller coaster. One walks out feeling very happy, the other one walks out feeling unsettled. It just depends on like how they are, what their personality is, what their experiences are. Because maybe one of them has like, what is the word for when you get like really dizzy? I don't know what the word is. Maybe one of them has it like that, and maybe the other one doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Our experience informs our perception of things, and that comes out with emotions. There's another example that kind of comes out to me. Your boyfriend doesn't get you flowers on girlfriend day, and the internet is like mad when an event like that happens. You, not so much, like you don't really care. Like you didn't think that that was something that mattered to you. But then you see people on the internet getting mad about it, and you're like, oh, well, should I be mad about that? It's like, what? Here's the point there. It's like, why are you listening to unreliable narrators on the internet? That's where I feel like the unreliable narrator thing comes in a lot. With emotions and situations that are not so the same for like every single person who's experiencing it. Like people could experience the same thing and walk out with completely different feelings about it. That's the crazy part, and they don't know your life. So why are you giving strangers on the internet so much precedence over your emotions and over your actions? I'm talking to myself, by the way. Listen, they are living a different reality from you. These people, they're literally living a different reality than you. A different perceptual reality, because every single thing that we go through makes us see things a certain way. Especially when it comes to emotional stuff, because that is so much more subjective. It's not as cut and dry as like the blue and black dress or the white and gold dress, however you want to see it. This stuff, ooh, it's up to interpretation. Very up to interpretation, babe. Real quick, I don't know, which one should I choose? They all look relatively the same, but there are small, minute differences that appear. It's not even focusing. Which little bow should I choose? I go with like a little baby one for the ring finger. Okay, I think I got it. Oh, she's so beautiful. Isn't she so sweet? Dude, never put nail polish remover on your table because I think I've done something a little bit destructive. That's where this was sitting. And I have some nail polish remover that's sitting inside. So that's where that's sitting. I stripped some of it, so I'm not proud of myself. So when someone's living a completely different reality than you, saying that your boyfriend doesn't care about you because he doesn't buy you flowers on girlfriend day, and that was never something that you prioritized in your life, but now you're letting it take precedence over your life because it matters in other people's realities, you are letting the unreliable narrators get to you, babe. I think it's important to just be aware of what unreliable narration is to you in your life when other people are telling you things about your life or giving you life advice or something like that that may not exactly align with everything that you've experienced in your life because they have experienced a completely different reality than you. You are living a completely different reality from them. This makes sense to you, or am I just like acting completely off the cuff? I really didn't expect this to get as like advicey as it did, but I feel like I needed to hear this video, like me personally. My camera died, it's a little bit later now, but the point that I was getting around to is that everyone is an unreliable narrator to the objective truth. You are the only reliable narrator to your truth. And that's literally all of the stuff that I was gonna say, so I was really annoyed that the battery was dying right there in that moment. It was really annoying. I'm just doing the top coat of my nails right now. I already did the left hand, now I'm on the way to the right hand, which, as you guys know, has led to a lot of mishaps, so I'm trying not to mess up right now. Nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this more, I don't know, casual style of discussing the stuff that I found, because less intimidating for me to do. I don't know if it's less intimidating for you to watch and approach. I didn't include as much empirical data as I normally do. If you enjoyed it, then let me know. And give it a like and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, obviously. If you're interested in more video essay type content, I do have some of those. I will upload another soon. Oh yes indeed. Oh yes indeed I will. If not in the next week, then in the next couple of weeks. I'm so happy for all of you that have found me through my cyber self video. That is so nice. I'm so glad that you guys enjoy that, and I'm glad that you guys are liking that. It makes me very happy. I just did the top coat. Let's see how it looks. Yes! Ooh! Okay, other one. Ugh, it doesn't look that good right now. I hope you enjoyed more of this casual type thing because it was like the only thing that I could allow myself to do right now. I literally could not get up and do anything else. I did not have the mental capacity for that. Goodbye, everyone. Have a most lovely night, and I hope that all of your dreams and wishes come to you. Bye-bye.